Good evening, North America. This is Vinny D, and I'm broadcasting you from Ottawa, Ontario. This is tonight's edition of Focus Scope. Today we went down to the court. We caught up with Chris Dacey and John at Right Blend. You know, that's one of Canada's best court reporters, okay? Chris is one of our group members, VNA. We had a vote tonight, and the board here at VNA, our press gallery, and they decided we're going to let John join the ranks of Andy Lee, Chris, you know, Charlie, and all the other ones, you know, get him some accreditation and everything. John is awesome. You know, he's one of the best court reporters Canada ever had. And what strikes me about this is just how intelligent this guy is. He had no formal legal training. He just picked it up. That's how quick he picked it up. Like, he admits he's no legal expert. He's not a lawyer, but he's down pat on his court reporting. He understands the concepts of the law and everything. So without any further ado, let's get into what John and Chris think about this Pat King trial and about this situation in Canada, about these protesters at Ottawa U and around the country that want to, you know, that's promoting something that wants to destroy the country. You know, it's like they're in violation of the terrorist laws and everything. Now, during these clips, some of them cut off and everything because, you know, I'm disabled and I hit the button to shut the camera off by accident, and that didn't happen at Ottawa U because the cameraman Chad was taking the photos. But here you're going to see Chad in the background. He's not actually taking the photos. You know, taking the video footage. I'm doing it myself. But without any further ado, let's get into Chris and them right now. And you get to see the whole thing. I know it's who you want to see. You want to see my old ass talking. You want to see them. And they're going to come on the show later on. Not tonight, but they're going to come on very near future. They're going to do it by, you know, satellite link and come on and appear remotely wherever the hell they're going to be at, and, you know, opine about Canada, what the situation of the country is. They're going to talk about some of these subjects, and, you know, and they're two very intelligent people. So without any further ado, here's Chris and John. That's what you guys been waiting for. You ain't been waiting to hear my old ass talk. All right, Benny out to enjoy people and learn something from it.
I just didn't want you to have the idea that I don't want you around. I think you're unwelcome.
If that would stop you, you wouldn't be on the team. That's the way it works.
No, it's not that. It's just Donald has the right to be where he is. I don't want you to think that I think differently of you, you know? And I'll have you know that I use that word far more than I should for all kinds of people.
There's a lot of fucking assholes and retards out there all the time.
Exactly. I use that word in my head all the time. When I'm thinking about
I say I have a right to sue because I have it. I call the entity for rejects. Oh, we have some breaking news. Slovakia, the Prime Minister of Slovakia got shot.
I don't care about this footage.
So when I say it was a battle, I'm not metaphoric in this. There's actually archive documents that show you that they had battle plans about how to take out the various, you know, chloroquines and the various drugs for malaria, the aspirins, all kinds of things. And it's bizarre to look at this. Obviously, cocaine, one of the very major pieces of that pharmacopoeia back then, which was an enormous part of the business of the pharmaceutical industries in the late 20s and early 30s. And so if we don't go back in time, we actually miss the point.
Okay, I got two of the
between the organizing entities, which
I got two of the greatest court reporters here. Anyways, what do you think about, well, you're also a court reporter. What do you think about the way the police aren't charging sedation that's going on, you know, in the support of terrorism? You know, it's against the Canada Criminal Code. You've read the code, right?
Yeah.
14 years. 14 years charged as indictable offense. You know, and they're not doing anything. Nobody's pushing them to do it. And
There's two sets of rules in the city for sure.
yeah.
I mean, the law is not applied equally, and it is applied.
As long as you do.
Let's go over here.
It's important to realize that when we talk about the World Health
Okay, there's two sets of laws, and you're right about that. And it's this these crazy ideologues that are doing this, you know, and they created their own problem by teaching them that. Okay, okay, I asked Chris, now I'm going to ask the Canada's greatest court reporter in my book. Yes. Okay, John, what do you think about they're violating the Canada Criminal Code and supporting terrorism there at the universities now. You know, the police aren't doing anything about it, and it's a clear and stated issue when they do that in the Canada law, that in support of terrorism, it's a 14-year-old charge, and the police aren't doing nothing because they're scared, basically, because of what happened in the convoy, and they're also worried that they're going to say they're violating their religious rights, but the religious rights are really, some of it's religion, but the other part of it we're dressing, and the disguise is right in their handbook, dressing the disguise to avoid, prosecution if anything happens, so that's intent right there. So what happened in the trial? Anything interesting today?
So that's two questions.
Yeah.
Okay, so to the first one, I don't like to paint with broad brushes.
Yeah.
So the criminal code says one thing, but we see the officers always exercising their discretion. So that aside, I think it's more important to a democratic justice system that we focus on the individuals who are perpetrating bad behavior, who are disguising for criminal intent, who are doing vandalism, who are intimidating people. We need to focus on those people individually, and then I think you'll see a systemic correction. You'll see people know that there will be consequences for bad behavior and where it happens, and work from there, and instead of just condemning with a broad stroke. So absolutely, we see people masking up. We see some of these really tense protests, and it's very uncomfortable, I think, to have people concealing their identity at these events because it gives them a lot of leeway to be more aggressive with a feeling of impunity, and it could lead to violence.
Yeah, I agree with you and Stephen Crowder about that. It's individual responsibility, individual actions.
And the disguises are a big problem because I really think they enable people to have a mentality that they can get away with a lot more, and so it creates an environment that promotes violence. In my opinion, it creates the opportunity for violence where I think it would be far less when a contentious protester would have to reveal their identity to everybody and be responsible for their actions. So that's step one. And again, everybody in our democratic society has the right to protest even if we don't agree with them. Where the lines are drawn are very complicated. The idea of someone like Brian Peckford, the line of Section 1 of the Charter, the reasonable limits is exceptionally high. Total disaster, calamity, war, death on the streets, that's a reasonable limit, but we see reasonable limits being applied to the Freedom Convoy movement, to all these different demonstrations, where it's basically the whim of a police officer who's inconvenienced by the protest. And I don't think that reasonable limits applies in that circumstance. But we'll see. And then there's, of course, the argument of property rights. And property rights in Canada are not constitutionally protected, as the right to demonstration is. So where that line is drawn in regards to the university encampments is also a complicated legal question. There's been previous legal decisions in the decades prior where they were drawing lines between public and private property at universities for the sake of demonstration. How that filters into what's happening today, the escalating size of these things, the involvement of outside persons, and absolutely there are outside parties involved, and you're dishonest and lying if you say there aren't. We see the arrest video from the University of Calgary. Certainly a lot, maybe most of those people were not students. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. And how does that affect the legal opinions of people who were camping on college
There's a line
campuses?
between sedation and treason,
Yeah,
too.
absolutely. So those are very high-level questions, and I don't know if I can touch on those. I don't have the knowledge. But you asked me another question also. So the second question was about the court system, about what's happening into this particular trial. Was that your question?
Yeah, what's happening?
So we're seeing a lot of the same witnesses being recycled that we had from the trial of Tamara and Chris. The Crown was very keen in pointing out today that this is not the trial of Tamara and Chris, yet all three witnesses we've had so far, I do believe we're at the third witness now, Chantal Bureau, Vivian Lear, and Victoria Delaronde are all witnesses, the so-called civilian witnesses portion of the testimony in the Tamara and Chris trial. So we're having the same witnesses. They're giving me almost identical evidence, and I have to give